Hello everybody, my name is Steven and welcome back to the Storytime channel. Without wasting any time, let's get into our stories of the day. Do I have to wear a special dress for my wedding? Entitled Mother says yes. First, some historical context. My family calls itself a Catholic, but we have never been that abiding to the church canon or protocol since I remember. My grandmother is a lady who was born in 1930 and had the good luck of having an awesome father who surrounded her with all kinds of books, so the critic thinking has been in my family for 4 generations now. This happened back in 2002. My older brother, 26 at the time, and his girlfriend, 24 at the time, had decided to get married because of legal commodities. They both were in the first stages in their respective jobs. My brother is an engineer and was working on making a name for himself in his field. My now sister-in-law is a dentist who had recently begun to work in the public health system, so her work hours were crazy. She was called if there was an emergency, even if outside her shifts. As you can imagine, she didn't count with a lot of time to plan anything, and their common budget was not what a wedding budget you will expect. They were adamant on paying for their wedding, saying it was their decision and their responsibility to take. So they settled by a family meeting in my godfather's backyard, simple food and family. No religious ceremony, pretty simple, right? So in their own words, they could just stand there and be done with it. Starring E, awesome but annoying older brother, R, then girlfriend, now sister-in-law, EM, R's mom Zilla, H, R's sister, MB, middle brother, older than me, younger than E, M, my awesome mom, me, a lousy teenager just watching all the drama. It all begun the night they told us they were planning to marry. Everyone said the mandatory congratulations and asked about plans, parents planning budgets and all that. My mom says she can help with the party, even if it's not traditional, and R's parents can pay for the church and all the religious ceremony things involved. Here comes the our crap, our money from the bride and groom. My mom looks at my brother with pride. She always does, even if he's just kicking a rock. Entitled Mother then says that if they need something, to feel free to ask her or her husband. And that, of course, her gift would be the dress. She has seen a couple in a brochure from the shop that is a dream. R says, do I have to wear a special dress? Entitled Mother looks at her as if she has just spewed her undeniable love towards Cthulhu. Of course you do, it's your wedding. E says, I feel like we should clarify this. There's not gonna be a religious ceremony or a big event. We are getting married because it is convenient for us. Me, happily eating spaghetti bolognese. Then began the first blackmail fit. Entitled Mother began sobbing. How could they disrespect the church in that way? They would be living in sin. How could they do this to her? R was the only daughter she was going to see getting married in her lifetime. Look at her sister. She was an old maid and would never give her that joy. Spoiler alert, the older sister, H? She's not an old maid. She was 27 at the time and doing everything with a pulse that consented to share a bed with her. And alright, even if they don't want a religious wedding, at the very least she should buy the dress. How is she getting married in a potato sack? Yep, those were the words. At this point, me, MB, and H just share a look, because the disaster was imminent. H says, why don't we all compromise on something? We can all go dress shopping, find something appropriate, and at the same time look special. I say even touring another store or more than one? By this point, my grandmother was getting stressed and I was dizzy because of the high pitch of the yelling, so I just wanted them out of my nose. R was not precisely happy but agreed and tried to placate things. Even more, the commissioned her mom with all the preparations for the reception, gave specifications. I heard her saying something small like 15 times, and the card with money. She claimed that with the little time her job left, this would be better. We all thought it was true. The day of the shopping, I was dragged with them along with my mom's. I have never been fond of shopping trips. I find them boring and my medical condition is not precisely ideal for them, but I complied. I saw R getting stuffed in God knows how many dresses. Entitled Mother was in heaven, saying one and the other were prettier than the last one. But at the end of the day, this was a civil wedding, so R chose one that was not a wedding dress. It was white but just above the knee with long sleeves. The fabric was the sparkle of the entire thing, not a single shine, rainstone, or something remotely wedding-esque. Blackout cut 2, 3 weeks before the wedding. I was in the patio arranging things to get my dog home. She has just been born, when I see R rushing in with a giant box in tow. R is little, shorter than me, and I am 1.56 meters giant. She looked pretty upset and my brother wasn't home, so I rushed behind her to see if she was okay. When I asked her what had happened, she sputtered, threw the box away as if it burned, and began walking to our living room. I tried to sit her down, talked to her until she was a little bit more collected, and offered juice. In this house, I'm the only person who has ever enjoyed alcoholic drinks, and I was 15 at the moment. And while I went to fetch it, I called my brother and shouted for my mom for reinforcements. After the things have calmed a little bit, my mom consoling her for we didn't even know why my brother finally arrived, R shows the box. It's a giant dress with all the looks of a meringue cupcake, ruffles, rhinestones, a heart-shaped cleavage, a veil, and I even think gloves. I'm not that sure. And R began to cry. The dress was the least of problems. It turned out entitled mother had booked a church. Church's decorations, a priest, flowers, candles. And for the reception, a 5-course banquet, a giant designer's cake, decorators because they have to make my godfather's backyard look presentable, and chosen the invitations. All of this paying with the card they gave her, which was perhaps around 10% or something of the like of the total price for all the nonsense. They got everything returned, have a couple of problems with some people who do not accept cancellations, but the bank took care of it. The story has a happy ending though. They had to do something before entitled mother got the wind of things, so in that very moment, they jumped in my brother's car, went to the courthouse, and got married. Stopped on the way back to my house to buy a ton of pizza, frappuccinos for everyone, and fruit tarts from our favorite bakery from when we were kids. Texted everyone that they had just gotten married and that everyone was welcome to celebrate with them at home. When R's dad and sister arrived, they said entitled mother was deeply hurt and offended and that she was not putting a foot in that ridiculous party, not after the disregard of all her efforts and job. It was better for everybody. Today, they're still married, have a teenage kid who is both a joy and work, but who we all love deeply. Entitled mother is still there, sometimes making a fuss, but my brother has gotten very good at handling her. So if you were in the situation and the entitled mother used your card that you gave her to buy all this stuff that you didn't personally greenlight, what would be your reaction? Would you cut her off? What would you do? Let me know what you would have done in the comment section down below. Entitled parents try to get me arrested and leave in cuffs themselves. Please forgive me if I get a bit descriptive, but I think I need to keep from giving a false impression of me. First off, I really like small women. Part of it is my mom and a number of the women in my family are short. And if I can find a woman who can even slightly compare to my mom, I will be the luckiest man on earth. And live up to the Lilo and Stitch line, tiny but fierce. Time, spring break. Place, Fort Lauderdale. Cast, me, a lovable but pure butthole. EPD, entitled parent's daughter. ED, entitled dad. EM, entitled mom. FCF, friend cop female. FCP, friend cop's partner, male. The story. About 10 to 15 years ago, I was in college in Fort Lauderdale. Made spring break fun easy to do, so I decided to go down to the beach to do some photography homework. I ended up finishing near a bar a friend of mine worked at who told me about a nice scotch they had at the bar. It was a 20-year-old single malt estate bottling, very rare for bar service. So I got a glass, went across the street to sit on the wave wall, drink my scotch, read my book, and ogle all the ladies on the beach. Sue me, I was 24 at the time, thusly an idiot. After about an hour or so, I was finishing my scotch. You don't rush good scotch. And thinking of heading out. A very lovely young lady approached and sat down beside me. Now, to let you all understand, let me describe her. She was about 5'3", long red hair, petite, large A cup or small B, well proportioned, and a very definite womanly figure. She was wearing a bikini one piece, started at a point between the legs spreading to about 1.5 inches, about 1/3 of the way to her waistline, before splitting into two 3/4 inch strips that went up over her chest before ending in a point and string tying behind the neck. Along the back, the string went between her behind before splitting into two strings that came around and tied into the V just below the chest with a cross string tying the two arms of the V together. Not an outfit for a child. We got talking and I decided to hang out a bit longer to see how things would go. After a bit, I offered to grab us some drinks, but when she asked for a daiquiri, I figured to cover my butt and asked if she had some ID, as she was young looking enough to get me in trouble if I didn't check. So she pulled out an ID saying she had turned 21 last month. Legal, yay! And handed it over to show the bartender. I came back about 15 minutes later with our drinks. The bartender had no problem with the ID and we continued chatting. But as things kept going and she continued to drink her drink, something started to come off as wrong. I started to think she was underage, but as the ID passed muster with the bartender, I wasn't too worried as the fake ID was on her if something came up. Enter entitled parents. As we were finishing our drinks, and I was working up the nerve to invite her to my room, up walks a couple. Couldn't be more stereotypical tourists if they had actually used that white crap on their noses, and approaches the girl. "Hey honey, where did you go? We've been looking everywhere for you." Entitled dad, seeing the ubiquitous red Solo cup. "What's that you're drinking?" Entitled daughter says, "I don't know, some sort of strawberry slushy type drink he," pointing at me, "got me." Entitled dad grabs the cup and sniffs it. "This is alcoholic. You gave my daughter an alcoholic drink. How dare you? I'm calling the cops." Entitled mother grabs entitled daughter by the arm and yanks her behind herself. "You pervert, you probably drugged it, didn't you? You'll go directly to jail for giving a 15-year-old a drugged drink." Obviously, on hearing that, the pucker factor went to 11. I mean, I knew I did nothing wrong, but still, 15. I tried to explain about the fake ID and was about to get on them about her bikini when I was cut off with, "Our daughter would never do something like that," turns to entitled daughter. "Would you, honey?" Entitled daughter shakes her head no. At this point, I figure discretion is the better part of valor and sit back down, hoping the bartender would remember the ID I showed him. I proceeded to sit and ignore the haranguing they were spewing and wait for the cops. I also noticed what looked like her ID dropped in the sand behind the wall. This is important later. A few minutes later, the cops arrive in the person of FCF, who was a D&D friend with me and the bartender, and her partner, FCP. Entitled dad and entitled mom, dragging entitled daughter, immediately rush up to FCF, spinning their tale of how I tried to drug her daughter with an alcoholic drink, and when they mention my fake ID excuse, entitled daughter actually opens her purse and offers to let them search it. After this female cop friend pulls them aside to get their statement, and friend cop's partner approaches me with a very conflicted look. We had met a couple of times before and got along good, but this was a pretty serious situation. Before he even said something, I asked him to lean over the wall and pointed to the fake ID. After he retrieved the ID and examined it, I explained my side of the story. After my explanation, he took a closer look at entitled daughter's swimsuit and his eyes nearly popped out of his head at how skimpy it was. If it had more than 5 square inches of fabric, including the strings, I would be shocked. Friend cop's partner pulls female cop friend aside, where they had a brief discussion before they arrested all 3 of them. Entitled daughter for a fake ID, and entitled mother and entitled dad for child endangerment, I think. We all heard later at the next D&D game that although they never went to jail, they were held for the entire 48 hours, had their vacation ruined, and ended up with some major fines and a call to their state's DCFS. Ever since then, my spidey sense goes off, I'm out of there. Hope you all enjoyed my entitled parent experience. This is a tough situation, because by all accounts, this person seemed to be of above age. So despite there being red flags, everything seemed to check out, and the ID, which the bartender approved, made things look like it was all completely okay. I will say though, the description of the swimsuit was probably a little more than needed, especially considering they were 15. Entitled kid kicks me in the shin, then his mother claims it's my fault. So in the summer of last year, I went on a day trip to York, which is a city in the UK. It's been a personal favorite place to visit because of its history. And because of this fondness, I found myself face to face with an entitled parent. I went to see York Minster, a cathedral there, and then get some food. Well, when I got out of it, I was feeling hot and an ice cream truck was outside, so I decided to get one. In comes entitled kid. Entitled kid, pointing at my ice cream, "Give me that." "Excuse me? Did you ever learn manners?" Entitled kid says, "I don't care, give me the ice cream." I took a closer look at the kid, and he seemed about 8 or 9, old enough to know he can't be that rude to strangers. "No, I bought this with my own money, I'm not gonna give you—" Entitled kid cutting me off. "Shut up, give me it." "No, it's mine and I paid for it, go ask your mom for one." Entitled kid says, "I'm not gonna." "Well, you're not getting mine." I stood up and started to walk away when the kid ran in front of me and started to pull his leg back. Immediately, I stepped to the side. Me, as he swings his leg, "You're gonna have to try harder than that, I grew up with an—" I stopped as pain shot up my right leg, and I realized he hit me in the shin. I dropped my ice cream and went to sit down. "Why would you assault someone like that?" Entitled kid says, "That's for not giving me your ice cream." He pulled a face and stuck his tongue out as I held my leg in pain. Who knew an 8-year-old could cause so much damage? 10 minutes later, I was about to go and get food when I spot the kid again with his mom and dad. I tap his mom's shoulder as his dad takes a photo of the cathedral. "Hey, earlier your son kicked me in the shin. Could you tell him off or something?"
"What did you say? My little baby would never do that."
She ruffled the kid's hair as he smiled condescendingly. "Well, he did, and I have the mark to prove it." I was wearing shorts so anyone could see my lower legs, and I point to my right shin. He was rude to me and told me to give him my ice cream, and when I didn't, he kicked me.
"Well, it's your fault then. If you'd just given him the ice cream, then he wouldn't have kicked you."
"Look, lady, I'm nice enough to not press charges for assault, but he didn't deserve my ice cream. He was rude and, frankly, I didn't want to throw my hard-earned money away, even if it's just a couple of pounds." At this point, the dad turns around and looks down to me. I'm 5'8", short genes ran in my family. The dad says, "Hey, listen, we're sorry. I'll tell entitled kid off and I'll buy you another ice cream if you want." "No, I'm fine, but thanks anyways. Just tell your kid off for me." I walked off and the mother shouted back at me,
"Our little angel would never do that. He's a perfect little boy."
I didn't care at this point and kept walking. Eventually, I found a good place to get some food and sat down. Guess who walks in the door while I'm halfway through a burger? If you guessed entitled mother, you were right. Following her was her little crotch goblin and his dad. They glare at me and this conversation ensues.
"Where are your parents? I want them to make you get out."
"What? I may be short, but you can tell I'm not a minor. I'm 21 for God's sake."
"How dare you use the Lord's name in vain like that? You better get out of this store right now and let us sit there."
Nice worker says, "Excuse me, could you keep it down? Other people are trying to eat and could you leave this man alone?"
"And who do you think you're talking to?"
Nice worker says, "I think I'm talking to an ungrateful Karen right now. What about you?"
"How dare you speak to a customer like that? Let me have a word with your manager."
Nice woman picks the phone up and dials a number and then she hands entitled mother the phone. I hear a ringing from nice worker's pocket and she picks it up, pretending to have no idea what the call is about. Nice worker says, "Hello, how can I help you?" Entitled mother, now red in the face,
"Stop lying. A manager wouldn't be sitting at the till."
Nice worker says, "Well then, you can just get out." Entitled mother storms off and the dad mouths a sorry to us both. Luckily, this story ends with an even happier ending as the worker slipped her number into my pudding and now she's my girlfriend. She was actually the one who encouraged me to write this here, since in a month it will be a year since that entire ordeal. Well, how about that? An entitled parent story that led to getting a date. What a positive twist of fate. But with that being said, that's all the stories we have for today. So what I want to know is which of these stories today was your personal favorite and why? Let me know in the comment section down below. And thank you all so very much for watching and listening to the Storytime channel today. If you haven't yet, please consider subscribing and don't forget to turn notifications on so you'll never miss an upcoming video. Thank you all again for watching and listening to the Storytime channel.